like to introduce Mr. Al Suttor, and he's going to talk today on the Bremen Bible Church. And welcome, and
Thank you.
it's all yours.
I might mention before we start, I've been here since I'm trying to think, 59. I moved into town, bought a home here, and we've been here ever since. And we've gone to the same church. It's the same church building, but we have changed it since then. And like a lot of you have splits in your churches, we've had a couple of them through the years. And you probably know a lot of the people that went here and there. And I'm going to talk about mainly the history of the Apostolic Christian Church, which was in that building for many years. In fact, until, let me see, it was fall of '79 that we became an independent church away from the Apostolic Christian Church. But over in Europe years ago, actually it was in Europe and in Switzerland, they had a lot of persecution. I mean, I'm talking about people, they wanted them, the young fellas, they wanted them to go into service, and it was mandatory that they go into service. And so it would be like us drafting in the army and saying, you've got to go. And that's the way they did. So the people started thinking about that, and this Samuel Fraley, I don't want to bore you with this, but he started a movement. He was born in Switzerland. He was just a young fellow, 27 years old, and he wanted to lead a religious awakening. So due to the fact that America had declared the independence, and it was signed on the First Amendment there, that we would have the religious freedom over here in this country. So they decided they wanted to send some people over here. So in 1847, they sent Benedict Wynant. I don't know, that name doesn't sound, but he was led by the God to come to America. So he took a group, and they brought him to America here. And at first they started the Amish Mennonite Church. So we must be, we're not Amish Mennonites, but that's the way they started, the Amish Mennonite Church. Then they went to call it the Evangelical Baptist Church. And then eventually it was the Apostolic Christian Church. And they started these churches now, which was the Apostolic Church. They started them in New York, and it was in Lewis County, New York. And there's two big churches there now, or still in New York. And then they started more churches in, I'll give you the Ohio, Illinois, Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, Michigan, and Oregon. They started those in 1870. I mean, they were in at that time. Now our church, I might just tell you what they have, inspired by the fact that they had freedom of religion. These people came over and they enjoyed that. And of course, even in our country, there was drafts, where you had to go, but it was not like over in the old country. We call it the old country, where they had to. They said, you're going to go. That's it, and. In this country, they were able to go into service. If they were drafted, they were able to go into service as non-combatants, and they give them jobs just in the hospitals and as medical aid man. In fact, I was one of them. I was a medical aid man. I didn't carry a gun. I don't know what they'd done if they'd start shooting at me, but I was lucky I didn't have to go overseas. So it wasn't the time of. But this church, they believed that Jesus, God's Son, I'm going to read this, was born of a virgin and had an earthly ministry for 33 years, later went to the cross, and he died for our sins, each one. And the German language at that time was the main one in our church. And they preached in German, and I mean, you had to know some German at that time. And they preached, and even the Sunday school teachers did that too. The other thing is that in 1917 they had this World War I was on, and they said, they came to our church and they said, well, you can't speak it, you can't preach in German. Well, the preacher didn't know anything but German to preach, and the congregation didn't know anything too much on the English language either. So it was kind of, but they let them go, and they finally got to where they were preaching but they wanted, the reason for that is that the Germans were, they had to refrain from it because they had anti-German feelings in this country, and it would be like Japan, when they had the World War II. People that were Japanese, they watched them pretty close, so they did the same thing with this, and they told them, but they were able to get by it and get on there. Now, our church was established in 1911. A fellow by the name of John Gerber came, and he brought a group of people that were German and Swiss people there, and they tried to stay away from the mainstream of society. In other words, it might be kind of like the Amish, we're separate. We're there, but we're separate from that, and that's the way they were at that time. Probably pretty conservative. And they bought a place on Dogwood Road, and in a house. That's where they first started the church. And then they bought an old schoolhouse for $100, and they moved it next to the house. And that became their first real church. Then, in 1924, they built it was on Baltimore Street, and you'll see the corner of Baltimore and North Street. And we built a building there, and they had first ministers were Jake Shook. I don't know, some of you might know that name. Fred Von Bergen and Chris Zimmer. The Zimmers were around here. And more recently, there's Henry Suttor and Herman Heaney. Remember Herman Heaney? A lot of you probably remember him. Herman was a man that married me, so I knew him pretty good. And he had a son. Well, I'll get into that in a little bit. And in 1954, we built a nursery wing, and they added that to the church. So that was the thing there. In 1967, a group left the assembly, and then they formed the Community Gospel Church. You probably know the Community Gospel Church. Bob Heaney was one of them, and there were several of them that left at that time, and their families. And in 1969, we built a fellowship hall and I'm going to send around the picture here. We built a fellowship hall and Sunday school rooms onto it. And this is a group on the back here. You might pass that around there just to show that was built on to the church there. And that was a good one, so we could evangelize the youth, and it was so get back here and find out there. And then, so a little later, In 1979, we did have another split, and then we became independent, and we called it the Bremen Bible Church, which is today. So I don't have a lot of history about from that time on there. I mean, I was here, but it's more history from the back that we came up there. And we still do a lot of the same thing that we did at that time. One thing we do, they have a preaching service, and we do go to our dining room for donuts and coffee. You probably know that, some of that. And that's a time of fellowship, and it seems like we get to know our people. And our church is just like a family. I mean, it's like somebody gets sick or something, probably your church is the same way. They call, we have our prayer groups that call them, and many of them go out and visit them, and I think it's a pretty good thing right there. Now our current pastor, I might just mention this, we added an elevator in, what date was that? But anyway, we added an elevator and made it handicap accessible, because some of us have a little trouble getting around. And so we make it pretty good there. And our pastor now is Dr. Dwayne Beals, and he is a professor at Bethel College, and he's our pastor. So he'd be kind of a part-time pastor, but the man works like a full-time pastor. He visits. If you're sick, you can expect them to visit you. And I thought it was pretty good. I've had setbacks, over the years, and they're right there for us, and it makes it pretty nice. And now we also, you've heard of the Bremen Bible class, where it's a class where they take kids out of the 1st through 5th grades, and they're able to be Bible school for about a half an hour, and it's kind of intense training on that, and that's held at our church at the present time, and that's during I think it's February, I think, through April, or I'm not, I think it's February through April that we have these classes, and they're once a week, and you probably know some of the teachers. It's Feldman, I'm trying to think right now, get a senior moment, once in a while. And there's 2 ladies that do that, and then they have a bus that brings them over from the school. And I used to drive that bus for a few years, and it was a blessing to me, because I'd hear these. We had a lady that would come in there and sing. They'd sing songs, and they'd have verses that they knew about right there. So that's the same way. My wife says, "Well, you ought to tell some of the things there," and I said, "Well, I'll tell about the donuts and coffee, because that's kind of a tradition for us. Anybody that comes in there, they kind of enjoy that, and have donuts and coffee, and just talk to you've got a lot of friends, and we invite some in. But we're small, and we don't have a lot of kids, and I think that's the big thing that the churches need. I've talked to Pastor Dean at the First United Church, and he says, "Well, we don't have too many." And then I talked to the Methodist preacher, and he says they've got a good youth group. So this is the growth of our church is there. And I try to see whether I can get somebody in once in a while, into the church. Get somebody that could have some kids. So some of ours are having their kids now, but a lot of our people are a little older and mature, we'll put it that way. So if you have any questions, I think I've got it pretty much. That we've had a couple other pastors in between, where we had Pastor Beals, that is our pastor right now. But this is he's done very well, and he does a good job there, and everybody likes him, so I guess we're gonna keep him. He's a little older than some of the younger ones. Now, do you have any questions about this, any of you?
Do you have a Sunday school class for adults?
Yes. Ed Berry happens to be you probably know of him. Ed Berry teaches that, and he works on that very hard. And we have a group of us that go to the adult
That's after
classes.
your donuts and coffee?
Yes. That's from probably 11:15 till 12 o'clock, somewhere there.
Didn't they used to have church service and then a little break, refreshments or whatever, and then have a second church service?
At one time, yes, they did. And during that time, the kids went to the Sunday school class. And the other thing that, of course, I like now, our pastor, he knows what he's going to minister on. He's probably worked on it. And when I first, the Apostolics first, you might say, started, they would open up their book, like I'm opening up this book, and okay, they'd preach on that. So, believe me, it was all over the place. I mean, it was fine. We'd go on this particular subject here. They went over in Revelation, and I didn't appreciate that too much. It got a little bit, just might say, take up the time. And so then later, I think later years, they started going to, I mean, the man started, and I don't think there was anything wrong with it, but they started going to preparing their lesson. Well, if you're going to go anywhere, if you're going to teach something, you try to know what you're talking about. Well, I'm sure they knew what they were talking about. So that was one of the things right there. But we have a good Sunday school class now. I mean, there isn't too many of us, but they have, I think he does a wonderful job. And you know, you come out with some lessons, and then you go out during the week and you can put those into action. And our church, of course, goes, we're very similar as far as talking about Jesus. And I remember years ago, I might just bring this up. I lived in Fort Wayne for years. That's where I graduated from high school. My folks weren't Christians at that time, although, you know, they talked about this and that, but they wasn't Christians, and they'd send me to a church. Well, I went to one church which wasn't very far from there, and they talked about everything. And they talked about being good. They talked about the golden rule, you know, do unto others and this sort of thing. And I came home and I says, yeah, they preached on everything. I said, but they didn't tell us about Jesus. So at that time, I changed over to I started going to the Apostolic Christian Church in Leo, Indiana, which is outside of Fort Wayne. And, I said, that was wonderful. So I became a member, we called it a member, and got baptized. And in our church at that time, you repented of your sins when you were convicted, you might say. And we went to the elder at that time. In fact, I had to go to the elder to even get married. And my wife was at another Apostolic Christian church in Illinois, and they moved to Milford. And so I met her at Camp Mac, which is, as some of you know of that one. We had singing groups that went there, and I was one of the singers. And she was there, and I said, I thought to myself, I got to have that woman. forth, you know. I'd see her once in a while, and we weren't actually members of the church then, and we did date. And after you're a member of the church, you're not supposed to date. So what they did, they'd have singings, and probably the Amish have the same thing. They have singings, and that brings the single guys and the single ladies together. And I met her, of course, at Camp Mac, so we did go to movies and things there at that time. Now, after you're a member, you don't go to movies. Now, it's different than our church now. You can go to movies, and even now they say, yes, you can watch your television and so forth like that, but watch what you watch. I mean, you just don't put everything on there. And my father-in-law was very strict apostolic Christian, and he finally got him a TV for news. But I remember one time the elder was coming to visit him, and he unplugged the TV and he put it in the closet. So, you know, they were pretty staunch on that. Sorry, I'm rambling on, but it was.
Can you say something about the organization above that of your congregation? Is there a denomination?
Right now we have an elder group. I was one of the elders a few years ago. I'm not right now, but I was elders at the church, and we have the pastor plus 3 elders, and part of them are with the building, one of them is with the building, and the others are all of our other things there. So we have 4 people, and that do everything as far as, and we plan out different things. We have I don't know whether you want any more of that or not, but that's the way it's. Now, the Apostolic Christian Church, though, was they had elders. It was a kind of an organization, and they had elders in churches, different churches, and then they would be responsible for some other flock, you know. Like we had one from Milford that was our elder, and he would come to our church and admonish us or encourage us, one or the other. And when we had our split and we actually went away from the church, we left that organization. So, but we still have the church building. It was in the bylaws there.
So are you independent now? Or
Yes, yes, we're independent.
But before you were connected to a bigger apostolic?
We were checked.
But it's still apostolic? Is it? No, it's called Bremen Bible Church.
Bremen Bible Church. The Apostolic Church went to Madison Road. If you go to South Bend, it's on the right-hand side, on the corner of Madison Road. And I loved that church, and I loved the teachings and everything there. But they were, we wanted to do a little more missionary work, and just so happened that the others didn't want to go as much. And we support quite a few missionaries right now, probably more than most churches. For the size of our church, in fact, I have a grandson that's a missionary in Mexico, and bring support to him every month, which is good, because he's learned the language, and he tells people about Jesus. He's really a strong Christian.
Is there a state or a national organization that you belong to, or are you just purely independent?
We're completely independent.
Okay.
When year did you become completely independent, did you say?
Well, let me see now. I wrote it down here.
When,
1979, the fall of 1979, we became independent and Bremen Bible Church.
Okay, and the dedication of the new building and everything was in 1970, it says here. So-
Yes,
And I noticed there's a lot of people from Wyatt and Madison Township involved at that time. And,
yeah, we had the Zeltwingers and the Ladies, you probably knew of some of the ladies.
yeah.
We had the Zeltwingers, the Ladies, the, shall I say some of the rest of them.
Those were the main ones.
Yeah, those are the main ones, and they had large.
Well, I noticed Louis Gerber
Yeah.
too.
Louis Gerber, he was president
Were
of the
they
bank.
Overleas too or not?
No,
No.
no, Overleas, they were somewhere else. I don't, it wasn't at our church. But Louis Gerber was one of our, and he stayed till, I think, the end.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they were.
How do you get your pastors?
Well,
Or you haven't gone through that yet?
oh, our pastor, as far as our pastors, years ago, they were elected by the congregation, and they were lay ministers. Now, our minister is a paid minister. We pay him, but he's a part-time minister, so we don't have to pay him like they do others. And he's a professor at Bethel College, and he's also, he's connected with a lot of different companies, and a lot of those are Christian, they support Christian missionaries and so forth like that. But now, we find our, I don't know how they find the pastors, but they found ones that were, and this one was he was a Bremen, it was like your Napanee Missionary Church. It's a missionary church. He was with the missionary church, but he had been pastor at several different churches, and we got him in and tried him out, and he became our pastor. And they're very good. They work with us a lot, and we know we're small, and we don't have a choir, but we have different ones that sing. And we do have, by the way, we have piano and organ, which the Apostolic Christian Church had. The guys would blow a thing and they'd get the note, and a leader would lead them in song. And they never did go to pianos and organ. Now we have piano and organ, which is a pretty good thing.
That probably comes from the Amish Mennonite background.
Yeah, that's probably about right. They were, and they never went to, and the other thing is that when they were pretty plain as far as jewelry and everything like that. Now, we allow that, but, it's like anything, you don't want to go overboard. I suppose if somebody came in was too, they'd probably say something about it, I mean, we're not going to discriminate people, but the way the apostolics were, they wore conservative hair, and as far as makeup, not too much, and jewelry, no. And then when we had our split, I went and got me a ring for my wife myself. And I said, boy, that was the thing. Well, I didn't have to get her one then, years ago.
If you go all the way back, you said the first church was in a home on Dogwood, and then they moved a school building.
They moved a school building, they paid $100 for it.
What,
can you imagine that?
Do you know what school building that was?
I don't know, and
Whereabouts on Dogwood?
That I don't know either. I was going to try
okay.
to find out. I wish I'd know a little bit more.
Earl Zeltwinger's name's on here, he would know.
Yeah, Earl would probably know, and I was going to talk to Earl, and I didn't get a chance. And there's a lady down at the Manor, Aldine Feldman, I don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
if you,
Sure.
you know her. She's about 95 and pretty sharp.
Yes.
She's a very good friend of ours. She's in our Sunday school class, and she's down there every time she can be, because sometimes the weather gets bad and she don't want to get out. But and she's, I was going to talk to her, and then, maybe I had some other things on hand. But my wife helped me make up this program, and that we could tell you about that. But there's just a lot of other things. I'll probably have, yes.
I know the Apostolic Church is very deep into speaking in tongues. I
No.
worked with a fellow from
No, they're not.
Not this one?
the Apostolic in South Bend.
The Apostolic in South Bend. This is Apostolic Christian Church, and we've never been in the tongues.
I just wondered, because we had some
No,
long,
they're not. They're not
very
in
long
the.
and detailed discussions.
Yeah.
First I had a Pentecostal who was very into that.
Oh,
And then
yes.
when he retired, I got a fellow that was from the Apostolic, and, I mean,
Yeah.
I got told
They
many,
never-
many times I was going to hell because I didn't speak in tongues.
Well, we can't knock it. I mean, we just don't do it, and that's the thing there. And I say
Well, I
that
think we
they
have to go back
probably,
to the scripture on that.
it probably happened because. And can you imagine that everybody started talking different things and we understand what it was? I've never been into that either. But I believe I believe in Jesus, and not just God. I believe in Jesus. And a lot of times you say to people, we say, "Oh, do you believe in God?" Or but you say you know Jesus, you got Jesus living in your heart, and a lot of people don't quite understand. You say, well, yeah, I pray to God, but I'm not going to get into the. And I got into the Gideons, which is a pretty good thing, and that's the reason I know a lot of the pastors, and we try to get services in their churches. That's my job. So if any of you have a Gideon speaker, I'm the guy that has set him up.
You want to talk a little bit about your work with the Gideons?
Yes. Well, I might tell you what we do. We have a prayer, and every Saturday morning we have a prayer and worship time at what was called Burkholder's Dutch Village, but it's Dutch Village now, and the restaurant happens to be closed at the time. They're going to open it back up again, but and there's a group of us. There's president and a vice president and those, and we have a meeting at usually once a month at usually the vice president's place. And we talk about different things there. And there's a lady that I work with that she does a lot of the computer work for that. So if I set up a speaker, and I go to the churches, and I know a lot of the pastors, and some of them, a new one comes in or something, I have to go and introduce myself, but I take time out, and I've kind of neglected it during last winter. I had some health problem, and I just didn't go out that much, so now I'm out more. But I go to the churches. I try to get them on for a speaker for maybe 10 minutes. We try not to. I've tried less than 10 minutes, and they can't. They said we can't get everything said. So that's what I do. Otherwise, I'm not a speaker for the Gideons. I could be a speaker, but I haven't going into that. I'd probably bore people.
And
But I-
recommended for their distribution of God's word.
I do the legwork as far as going out to the churches. And, I used to have Paul Doherty, he used to be a banker in Napanee, and he used to go with me. And his wife is the one that's doing the computer work and everything for me right now, but he died here last year. And when he was fairly healthy, he used to go with me, and we'd knock on the doors, and I'd say, and talk to the pastor and everybody else at that time. But I go out by myself most of the time now and set up these speakers.
What is the background of the Gideons? I mean, I know of the organization, but how did it get started, and how is it operated?
Well, the Gideons started actually it started in a home, and it was two men, and I can't name their names right now, but they decided they wanted to spread God's word, and wondered how they could do it, if they could get it into the churches. And now we have to be careful. We're not any. We don't say I'm a Baptist or anything like that. We go in and present the message. It's mainly to tell them what the Gideons do. And then these Bibles that are bought, all that money, any of the money that they give to us, they buy Bibles, and we put Bibles in 190 different countries. And a lot of them can't afford to donate anything, so it comes out of that. And in the United States, the same way. So, about it. Did I answer your question on that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the Gideon Bibles in the hotel
Yes.
drawers, and a neighbor of ours where we used to live across the street was a Gideon, and he I think at Thanksgiving, no, it was Halloween time, he used to always give the children a little card with some Bible
That's nice.
information or something like that. So that's what I know of it.
Well, I was in the jail ministry for quite some time, and we went to Kosciuszko County Jail because our camp is called Napanee Camp. Now there's Hank Kiefer here in town belongs to another camp. And I don't know, you probably know Hank Kiefer. How do you know him? He's active in one of the other camps there. But, I was in jail ministry for quite a while, and we would go in once a month to the Kosciuszko County Jail, and they let us in, and we were able to talk to a group of men. In fact, I remember one incident when we were first started there. We went into a place like this. We had a group of men, and they had closed circuit TV, you know, they had, because they got to keep an eye on these guys. And somebody was up praying, and one of the guys, and one of these guys went up and tried to get in another guy's thing there, and he took some stuff out of his satchel or something, and they saw that on closed circuit, and they came in afterward and got him and took him away. And we haven't had anything like that, but we have.
How many Gideons, how many are in the group here? You say there's different camps?
Yes, we have different camps.
So, what are the numbers look?
Well, our camp now probably has, maybe 100 Gideons. There's a lot of them are not active. We call them not active. Now they probably pay their dues, but they don't go to the meetings and so forth like that. Now we have maybe 60 people at a meeting once a month where they have a Delmar where they go, and we go through different program there the president has, and we go through our different things, you know, we have to do for the Gideons. And, yeah, and that's, so they have a meal, and we sometimes invite other people in. But in the jail ministry, each one of us makes out a little, you might talk about John or one of those. And we have a little lesson for them, and a lot of times they'll come up and they'll say, pray for us and this and that and the next thing, because boy, these guys have got, and they have a ladies group too that goes, and they're in ladies in there. Have to be. But I've noticed one thing, that a lot of times they come back, the same people I've seen, and they left, they said, well, we're getting out of here, and they're back. So we pray for them all the time, boy. I mean, they need it. And a lot of them, some of those come to the Lord, you know, but I tell them, I say, hey, when you get out of here, I says, get yourself connected up with a good Bible-believing church, and stay away from those friends that were maybe they're not good. But a lot of them, that's the reason they get back in. And so some of these people have got a little trouble finding a job too, if they've got a record. So there are organizations that help to get them jobs. Some of the missions do that. Anything else?
How big a congregation do you have at this point?
Oh, we're a small congregation. I'd say more of a family, but we'll have probably 40.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we're a small group. We're if you could tell us how to grow, I would appreciate that.
They like a lot of churches.
Yeah. So we enjoy that. We hope we can stay. Like a lot of them, they get small and they wonder how they can stay in existence, you know, but we do, and we get a good message every Sunday.
I think it'd be interesting to have a tour of churches, have some churches open.
Yeah.
Someday, for people just to go and see the church, visit. There's a lot of churches in Bremen I've never been in.
You've probably been in Lutheran since Dr. Bowen. Most people went or tried to go to the thing there. That is a big church.
It is.
And the missionary church is a very nice church now. They've done a lot of work on that. We keep doing things like putting in carpet, or we've, done a lot of work in the church, and so there's got to be a little money there somewhere. I don't know where it comes from. It isn't for me. I give, but so I don't know whether all of you are connected up with certain churches or not, or had gone to them, but
I want to thank Mr. Suttor for coming in. It's very interesting,
thank you.
and we appreciate you coming in.
I probably ramble on and on,
No,
you know.
no, you were very interesting. It was
Thank
very
you.
interesting.
I try to make it interesting because there's a lot of interesting things that's happened through the years at our churches, and all the churches are a little bit different, but a lot of them started with they come over from Germany or they come in from Switzerland. Switzerland was one of the places where a lot of our churches, the people came from. That's the reason they talk German, you know. And that was an interesting thing. And I don't know German, although I got a few words. Maybe they weren't so nice sometimes, but I learned. But my mom and dad talked, they talked German when they didn't want us to know what they were talking about. And they both knew German. But we didn't talk German at home, you know, but that was the way. That's an awful lot of, I mean, I like to read that.